Today we're going to take a look at some of the settings that you can change on your Olympus Air. So I'm on the main screen of my iPad mini to make a bigger screen so you can see it more easily. And I'm going to click on the OA Central app, and we see the normal mode dial, link, camera settings link, view images, and Amazon Cloud Drive. So we're going to look today at both this camera setting option area and this setting option area. The gears always are an indication that they're typically an indication that there are settings behind that gear. So let's click on camera settings, and it tells me that the lens may extend if I had a power lens like the EZ or any of the others. So these four items on the camera setting, first camera settings link that we've gone to, I'm going to touch on general. And this has to spin a little bit. And so typically you have to have your camera connected. You have to be connected to your camera for this to work. This is where you set the date and time. So if you've reset your camera to factory defaults, or something has happened with the battery, then this would be where you'd go in and reset the time. Time has been set, and so it's doing it. It's setting the time based on your the mobile device that you're connected to. And you can see it appear on the screen. Card setup, this is where you go if you want to reformat the card. I never use all erase, I always use format. It's I think a little bit more efficient and gives you a cleaner cleanup of the SD card, the micro SD card. So that's what's in general, or that's what's in card setup. Reset lens. This is a bit of a mystery to me. I'm not sure exactly what that does, but it's on, and so I think what it does is resets from one lens to another depending on what lens you're using. So if you put a power lens on, like one of the EZ lenses, it would adjust to that. Level adjust is another thing I have never used, so I haven't explored that yet. And sleep, this is I've got it set to 5 minutes, so the camera won't go to sleep for 5 minutes if I don't use it. I find that's useful, but you have these choices 1, 3, 5, and 10. So I'll switch it to 3. And do you want to beep or not? And so it'll you get level off completely, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, that's a beep when you've when it's signaling you that it's done something. So those are the items in the general. All right, so we're back on the main camera settings menu. And the next item is standalone shooting. And standalone shooting is when you don't have any mobile device connected to your Air, and you're just carrying it around and you're pressing the shutter button at the top to take a picture. So that's standalone shooting. And these settings, let's go into the menu, would apply. So on the standalone shooting mode, we have shutter release. That basically says what mode do you want me to use, what shooting mode do you want me to use when you press the top shutter button on the Air. And mine is set to photo in parentheses P for or rather photo and P, and I assume that means program. So it's adjusting the aperture to priorities, pretty much doing everything that iAuto does. Photo iAuto is specifically iAuto. Presumably with photo P, I can make some overrides, but since I don't have a device connected, it really will not, doesn't help me. So video is another. And if you are typically going to be using your camera, carrying it around and shooting video, then that would be what you'd want it to be set to. As I said, these modes or these switches are static in that if I change it to something where I don't have a control within the mode dial setting or the mode dial mode of the OA Central app, then that's the mode it's going to be stuck in. So for example, I set my picture mode one time to monotone because I wanted to take black and white pictures, and I forgot that I'd done that. Natural is the normal color setting for taking images. The others, Vivid and so on, just adjust how the color is rendered on your on the resulting images. And as a result, I could never get out of monotone. I didn't realize it was here. So it was just under standalone settings, picture mode, I set it to natural. And that way I got color images. And I can use one of the art filters to get black and white if I want, or I can come back into this setting and actually change it. Aspect ratio, I have it set right now to 4:3, but you can set it to 16:9, 1:1, a square, or 3:2, which is the typical 35 millimeter or aspect ratio. ISO, you can do that within the app itself when you're in the mode dial feature. So I don't usually, I leave it on auto here, so if I were taking pictures standalone, then it would be auto, as is white balance. RAW plus JPEG, if you want to shoot a RAW image and a JPEG image, or have both type images saved, then you'd have to set this to RAW plus JPEG. You can do that in the mode dial settings menu as well. Image quality, I set mine to the best possible, so I have it on, well, I did have it on Superfine, I thought, so I want Superfine, and I want 16 millimeter, or 16 megapixels, that's 4608 by 3456. That way I'm getting the best JPEG I can. Understand though, when you do that, it's the largest type of image, largest image that will be created, and therefore if you're transferring them to your mobile device, it's going to take a little longer to transfer the images. If you're showing people how this works or doing a demo and you want it to be faster, you want to choose a smaller image quality, size, and quality. So I think that takes care of standalone shooting. Next in the menu is network. So if I click on network, but you see Bluetooth, Wi-Fi password, Wi-Fi connection. So Bluetooth, this is where you can change the name that you gave your device when you first set it up if you want to make a change. Likewise, you can change the passcode. Passcode typically, I typically leave it to the first 6 digits, I believe it is the number that's in the back of the back plate of the camera. So that's network. And Wi-Fi password. This is the Wi-Fi password, is what I was saying. That's that number that's in the back of the back panel. I have not changed that. I've left it the same. That way, if I'm off somewhere, I happen to forget the password, I can just have to look at the camera and I can figure out what the password code is, or password is rather. Wi-Fi connection, it's a question of do you want speed priority or connectivity priority. I've typically just left it at speed priority, which I believe is the default. So that's network. Advanced is, again, some spinning. Pixel mapping and reset. You can do reset through a combination of key presses, but you can do it here as well. It'll reset the camera. Pixel mapping, I didn't know what it was, but your sensor can develop dead sensors or dead pixel points, or stuck. And this is sort of a way of having the camera go through the sensor and by getting information from neighboring pixel points, restructuring those. It would show up, a dead pixel will show up as a black dot on your images, and a stuck pixel will show up as a white dot on your images. So it might look like sensor dust, and if you can confirm that it's not sensor dust, then it might be one of these two types of pixel problems. Firmware, this is where you can check the firmware that you currently have installed on your camera. So I'm going back in the menus, camera settings. So we've gone through all of those, and now I'm going to hit the little house in the upper left hand corner to go back to the main menu. And this setting up, this is another place for settings, and this doesn't do us very much good except for our initial setup. So if you need to reset up your camera, this is where you'd go. If you want a copy of the guide, this is where you go. It's you can get the online version, which is a PDF. It's still very meager, but it does have information about charging the battery, inserting the card, and the things you went through when you first set up your camera. Close that, and legal notices, and again, versions of the software. And so I'm going to close that. However, if I go into mode dial, so I've got my camera connected. It's looking out the back window here, which is not a very pretty scene right now. And here we are, I'm in North America, and it's supposed to be winter in January, but it's not very wintry. I'm in manual shooting mode, which is down here in the lower right-hand corner, in the mode dial feature of OA Central, and I have the gear icon in the upper right-hand corner again. So if I click on that, I get some of the settings that we had before, but some new ones. So live view touch operation, this is if you want to be able to touch the screen, just as if I touch the screen right here where that window is in the house across the block, it should focus, change the focus point to there. If I want it to be over here, it'll change the focus point to here. Okay, so I'm back in the menu for settings within the mode dial. And recording view is 1 second. That means after it takes the picture and after it takes the image and displays it on the screen, it will only last for 1 second. I just want to see a glimpse that I got something. I'm not concerned that I'm not going to really review it, but you can set it up to 3 seconds, which will give you a little bit more time. That just is using the battery more as far as I'm concerned on the camera, and I don't really need it. Live view quality, speed priority is what I've chosen. Image quality priority would be the alternative. I just want to see if I've gotten things in focus or I've framed things the way I want them, so speed quality is what I went for. Add geotag, this must be on by default, and what it does, it takes the geo information, the geotag information or GPS information from your smart device, whether it's a smartphone or a tablet, if your tablet does have that, and adds it to the file EXIF data, so that you actually have GPS information, which is not the case in, say, the EM1 or the EM10. You don't have that capability. Display count indicator for self-timer. I haven't used the self-timer yet. I have it set to on. I guess that's default. Grid is scale, so we have choices of a squared grid, a golden ratio. These are like the rule of thirds and so on. So I just have it set to scale. The next item on this settings menu, while we're in the mode dial feature of OA Central, is sequential speed. And it's defaults to 10 frames per second. This allows you to change the frames per second rate if you're shooting continuous shooting, sort of burst shooting. Next one is save destination, and this is an important one. It defaults to Olympus Air, so as you take a shot, it's saving the image to the SD card that's in your Air. If I click on save destination, I can have it saved to the Air and the smart device. That's going to slow down the time if you want to take several shots in succession. I prefer to leave it to just Olympus Air, then go back through the shots by viewing images and picking the ones that I want to actually transfer to my iPhone or iPad. The next one is image quality, and so this and RAW plus JPEG are two items that are on the other menu that you have access to from within the shooting mode, the mode dial shooting mode. So image quality, same as what we saw before. I've got it set to superfine and 16 megapixel images, the best JPEG that I can get. Then RAW plus JPEG, I can turn that on or I can turn that off, and it changes some of the information that's up here. You can see that when you push the button. And that takes care of the settings menu. So I'm going to click on done while we're in the mode dial's position of OA Central for taking images. In a future video, I'll talk about some of the controls that are right here on the screen. But for now, I think that takes care of most of the settings you're going to find when you are in OA Central and in a shooting mode, or when you're out at the menu and using these camera settings here. Thank you very much.